ever since I was little, I would try to like make movies or interview. Like I'd set up my basement chairs everywhere and pretend to be Oprah and interview the neighbors and make these little videos. And I'm like, well, maybe I can like try my hand at like TV or modeling. So I didn't tell anyone this because I was like, they're going to tell me, don't be ridiculous. It will never happen for you. So I took a Polaroid camera and I went outside by my garage and I literally took like 70 selfies. So then I took the yellow pages, millennials are probably like, what? And I opened it up to commercial agencies and I put each one in an envelope and I mailed 70 of them out. And I just waited and thought, well, if I hear back, great. If I don't, then there's my trajectory,
26 soul qualities that a human needs to develop in order to reach their fullest potential. Fearlessness is number one, because if we're riddled with fear, we don't even want to see, we don't even want to get on the path in the first place. So what we want to do is we want to just start to see and witness in these practices. So we're sort of like pulling things out of the dark corners and we're starting to look, right? So the word enlightenment again means freedom. We can never be free if we are controlled we get hijacked or we act out these patterns. We don't even know what's going on. We just think to ourselves, we project, we blame. We're like, oh, that person's an asshole, right? I just don't like them or whatever it is. It's like always out here versus shining the mirror inside and seeing, my true nature is bliss and unconditional love. And what are the things that have happened that create distortions in that? Like, why do I act out in these ways? Or why does this really bother me?
I felt like some days I would wake up and I would be in this like deep depression. I'd be like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to lie face down on the floor. And I would tell myself, this is just a bad day. It's a write-off. Like the whole day is gone. And unfortunately, that's not true, because there is always something you can choose to do to change your environment, your way of thinking, what you're doing, why, that can snap you out of it. And I don't resent myself for that, because that kind of procrastination of going like, this is too hard to deal with, it comes out of a place of fear, which is completely understandable, because it's terrible. If you have awful anxiety, if you are really stressed, if you are seriously depressed, maybe you're grieving or something like that, it's horrible to go through. So of course you want to tell yourself like, I just want to give up and I just want to be defeated. And so many people are at different points and everything helps. So for some people, they need the medication to give them that strong foundation so they can then make changes to their lifestyle. Because this is me, I've been on antidepressants, and there was a period of my life where I couldn't snap myself out of it or readjust my mindset or change my lifestyle to be better for my mental health. I couldn't get out of bed. I needed the antidepressants to stabilize my mood. There were points where I couldn't have these conversations with myself because I didn't have the self-awareness or the perspective to realize how toxic my self-perception was until I spoke to a therapist, and she was like, boy, you're crazy. This is, what you're saying right now, it's not true. You just have this awful perspective of yourself. And not only is it making you sad, but it's stopping you from growing as a person because you're just holding yourself back.
For me, from my perspective, because looking at the deepest level of who we are, these limitless spiritual, energetic beings, and we've manifested into this physical meat suit on a place called planet Earth. Why did we come here? Because we had karma to resolve. And the karma being limitations, fears, perceptions of inadequacies. And life, one of my favorite quotes that a lot of people share is, life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free.
100%.
So you're always going to attract whatever it is that you need in order to be that subtle sort of form of resistance and sloughing to be able to remove the constraints that currently inhibit the limitlessness of your soul.
I've created challenges my whole life to overcome my emotional fears. Fears of rejection, fears of looking bad, fears of being judged. And I'm always thinking of, I try to tell people this, if they want to increase their confidence, write a list, not the shame list, this is the fears list of all the things you're most afraid of. I'm not talking like, I don't know,
an alligator or something.
I'm talking about like the emotional fears.
Sure.
Like I'm afraid of rejection,
stuff.
I'm afraid of like my wife leaving me, I'm afraid of whatever. And so my whole life, I've been afraid emotionally. And at certain stages, I just say, I'm sick and tired of feeling this way. So I was always afraid to talk to girls because I would get rejected by them all the time. And I never thought I was interesting as like a kid, as like a young teenager. And one summer I was like, I'm sick and tired of feeling scared every time a girl walks by me. Like I would just be scared. I was like, I don't want to feel this way. And I gave myself a challenge this whole summer. After I was 16, I gave myself a challenge in the summer. I was like, every time I see a girl, doesn't matter if I'm attracted, not attracted, I'm gonna go up to her. And I'm gonna have a conversation. Because I was so terrified to do it, I was just like, I need to do it until it doesn't feel scary.
Yeah.
It was the greatest gift I gave myself.
Yeah. Desensitize yourself.
Yeah, I was just like, it doesn't matter how many times I get rejected, I still love myself.
And I got one letter back that said, we'd love to meet with you downtown Chicago and come meet us. So I borrowed an outfit from JCPenney's, kept the tags on, and took the bus downtown Chicago and went to this agency, and I sat down. And she said, I brought you in here just to help you out by telling you you'll never make it in this business. I left her building and was on the curb crying. After I was done crying, I kind of looked up, and across the street was the Playboy building. And I was like, oh, don't do that. Your mom will kill you. Oh my God. So I found myself walking across the street saying to myself, let me just ask the secretary a question. So I go to her and I say, how do girls become playmates? And she said, not by walking in. They send in a photo of themselves in a bikini, and we get about 1 million pictures a year. So take a picture and send it in. I said, okay. Turn around, press the elevator button, and I'm waiting. And this guy walks past and he said, are you inquiring about being a playmate? I said, yes, because I still wasn't sure. And he said, we have a photo shoot happening right now. If you feel comfortable putting a bikini on and just taking a quick picture, and we can send it to Hef. I got a phone call a week later that Hef said, you're officially Miss October 1993. And I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And how am I going to tell my parents?
So for me, Danica, oh my gosh, when I started doing this work, I used to think, okay, I like to move things along. The most, one of the things that bothered me the most was when people interrupted me, right? Or I would go into this, explanation. Let's say, oh, feel she'll need a lot of dairy. And then they wouldn't agree with me. So part of me was like, oh, it's just annoying. I would just toss it off as this person's annoying. But I started to really sit with this. Okay, so it gets deeper. To answer your question, we build and build. We start to see what's there, and then we start to dissolve it in different ways and different practices of bringing in more light. Because these lunar aspects are, darkness. And what is darkness? Darkness is an absence of light. Darkness is not necessarily evil. We don't want to create shame and weigh ourselves down. It's just that we need to nourish these aspects of us. So for me, I could see, you get really impatient when people interrupt you, when they don't agree with you. What is that? So then I would sit with it, and through this work, through these practices, I could see, the reason it bothers me so much is because it's triggering some very primal fear in me that I'm not good enough to be seen or heard. Mm-hmm. And underneath that was like, if I'm not good enough to be seen and heard, it's because I'm not lovable, right? Like a deep, deep, deep primal wound, things that had happened in my childhood. And so once I saw that as the root, the behavior was an extension, but the root wound, which again, I take you sequentially into healing this, was this, I don't feel lovable. And once I saw that, Danica, then I started to tune into the ways in which we give ourselves love. No more like dancing around, or all the ways in which I was giving my power away, trying to get the love and reinforce myself and validate myself, which is really validating the ego, anything from outside. Instead, it was like, I can show up for myself. I can give myself the love. I can, again, self-soothe, validate. And the healing that came from that was so tremendous, because what happens then, Danica, and this is what cures a lot of relationship issues, is we then become whole as individuals. So when we're with our partner, we're with someone else, a friend, we're not trying to get anything from them.
The language that we use, that you cite, is derogatory by virtue of the fact that's still how we look at ourselves. And it's twofold. So that's how we incarnate. Like I say, we arrive with our bucket of fears, and the game is who can get rid of them the first, the quickest. And then you become an inspiration for other people to do the same. But really, it's also without the constriction of self-judgment or self-criticism, you don't actually have to learn the language of love. See, it's easy to love the parts of you that you love. It's easy to love the parts
Yeah.
of you that you like or that you find attractive. But love that is able to embrace all of the parts of you that you think are ugly is love. See, love doesn't distinguish between forms. And so going back to how we sort of prior to this were talking about love that is based on, well, you do what I want you to do, then I love you. That's not love. That's conditional.
Codependency.
That's
Yeah.
preferences.
Yeah.
So ironically, by virtue of the fact that we have these narratives and the dialogues about ourselves that are derogatory, then that part of us is actually the conduit to which we get to manifest what real love is, which is being able to embrace all parts.
Whatever you fear, run towards it, not away from it. Like, go with your intuition, even if it scares the shit out of you, even if it's going to upset people around you. That's fear. And who knows? I was terrified of going to LA and making it or not making it or failing, and my aunts and uncles condemning me to hell. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run towards it. I have nothing to lose. I've got a feeling inside. This happened to work out the way it did. I'm just going to run right towards this fear. And thank God I did, honestly. And that's what I've continued to do in the course of my career is anything I'm nervous about, I go, okay, thank you, emotional guidance system. Thank you for alerting me that that's what I should do. Now, mind you, if I'm fearful of jumping off of a cliff, that makes sense. Of course you should be scared of that. I don't say then go jump off a cliff. It's
Right.
more about like opportunities, because a lot of people are scared to quit their jobs and take a new one.
Yeah.
Break up with their boyfriends or girlfriends, because they're scared to be alone. To me, that is a sign from emotional guidance system that that's exactly what you're supposed to do. Run towards it.